Monday in Bemidji, U.S. Attorney Tom Heffelfinger sat down for a private meeting with victims and family members of last year's Red Lake school shootings. With the federal investigation now complete, Heffelfinger wanted to end rumors and speculation. But the case has never been a simple one, and many Red Lake citizens left the meeting frustrated and angry. Tom Heffelfinger has agreed to join us to talk about the conclusion of this extraordinary case. Good to see you again.
Good to be here. Thank you.
You didn't have to have this meeting. I'm curious what the purpose was.
Actually, legally and morally, we believed we needed to have this meeting. This was the worst single act of homicidal violence in Minnesota history. Red Lake is a small community where literally every family was impacted by the shooting. And we knew that over the course of the last 9 months, there was a lot of things that we could not say because of the pending case and the pending investigation. So we believed that it was an obligation we had to provide accurate information to people who had suffered greatly with the belief that it would help in their healing process.
Did anybody, you tell them that 39 people knew about it. Did anybody say, hey, where are the charges to the other individuals?
Oh, I told the people there I'm not going to get into the conversation I had with them. But it is true that I did refer to a study that's been performed, and in 80% of all school shootings in the last 30 years, other people knew in advance of the shooting. And I told them that Red Lake was no different. I also told them that in 95% of the school shootings in that period, the shooter was well planned, and that was not different. And yes, the people of Red Lake were very, very concerned that we couldn't share juvenile information, which I told them I could not do. And they were also upset when they learned that the law is quite clear, that if you know a crime is going to be committed and you do nothing, that's not criminal. Just keeping your mouth shut in the face of your knowledge that a crime is planned is not a crime itself. And so I knew that those issues were going to be difficult for the people of Red Lake. I knew that the fact that I couldn't talk about juveniles, that people who knew about the crime weren't going to be charged, I knew that that would only add to the frustration. But I believed it was very important to share with them that which we did know and could share, because as of that point, as of last Monday, the only thing they had was rumor. And rumor's not a good way to deal with grief.
What do the families really want to know? What answers were top of mind?
I think it's fair to say what was reported in the newspaper is accurate. They really were trying to make sense of why the 16-year-old kid would kill other children. And I tried to provide them information based on our investigation and based on history. But to be frank, the killing is so brutal and so nonsensical that you can't come up with a why. Why does a 16-year-old kid kill 9 people and himself?
Did the cultural differences, years of suspicion, did all of that, how did that get into the mix?
Well, first of all, culture had nothing to do with this. This crime was modeled after the Columbine shooting. It had nothing to do with Red Lake nor Native American people.
But the response of the community to the feds, I'm saying.
I think that's true. I think there is a history of lack of trust of other governments, lack of trust of the FBI, of the Department of Justice. I think the anger that was felt and expressed by the victims on Monday, however, was in part directed at me and the FBI, but it was also directed at anybody in authority. It was directed at the tribal council, the school board, at Jeffrey Weiss. It was just anger, which is a normal part of grief.
Was it good for them to vent?
I came down there to let them vent, to tell you the truth. I went into this knowing that I was going to be screamed at. I wasn't disappointed. I was screamed at. But I felt that it was important to give the community an opportunity. And what I mean here is the community of 40 victims, families, members. Give them an opportunity to scream. Give them an opportunity to cry. Give them an opportunity to hear the facts and then react as was natural that they should react.
I'm curious, are there universal lessons in this case, or is this just a special case?
No. This case, this study that I referred to, was done by the Secret Service and the Department of Education in 2002. Studied every school shooting between 1974 and 2001, including Columbine. They came up with 10 key findings. Every one of those occurred at Red Lake.
There was a great outpouring right after the shooting and promises of federal aid and greater cooperation and all that. Has that just faded away with time, or are there some building blocks in place?
Oh, no, the Red Lake was the beneficiary of probably over $1 million worth of funds from the Minnesota Department of Safety, U.S. and Minnesota Departments of Education, Department of Justice. And a lot of it went to helping kids and helping the school and helping victims of crime. The Minnesota Crime Victims Reparation Board, for example, allocated $250,000 to the families of the deceased and to the wounded.
Will this case always remain sealed?
They're juveniles. It'll always remain sealed.
And I like asking about lessons. Did your office learn anything specific about how to deal with cases like this in the wake of the shooting?
Well, I'm hoping there's nothing ever like this again. I think one of the lessons we learned is what we did earlier this week, was the right thing to do. We learned that we have to be willing to take the heat if we're going to provide effective service to victims. And that's what we believe we needed to do, both morally and legally.
Glad you came down to tell us about it.
Thank
Thanks
you very much.
Good to see you, too.
Take care.